Welcome to Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast, episode 110. Hi, I'm Jill. Thanks for joining us today.
And I'm Chris. Jill and I are your co-hosts and the founders of the Becoming Ellie community.
I know you're wondering, why are we called the Becoming Ellie community? Well, Ellie was the Norse goddess of aging who wrestled Thor and beat him. Chris and I thought, hey, we want to be like Ellie.
You can find out a lot more about us at our website, becomingellie.com. And Ellie is spelled E-L-L-I.
Hey, Chris, our guest today is Colette Harris, and she has lots of information for us.
Yes, and I think our listeners are going to learn an awful lot from Colette. I know I did.
Yeah. Let's go to the podcast. Colette Harris is a health coach living in Lochwinnoch, Scotland. She is originally from the U.S. and has traveled extensively while in the U.S. Navy Reserves.
In 2012, Colette was diagnosed with lipedema, and then in 2018, she was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. Both conditions cause a lot of pain, and Colette realized she needed to find a way to recover that wasn't just taking pain meds. She changed her diet, added CBD oil to her regimen, and began to live an anti-inflammatory lifestyle.
Colette identified sugar as a problem and worked to remove sugar from her diet. Today, Colette looks and feels healthier than she has in years. In 2020, she decided to become a health coach. She enrolled in the program and today helps others make healthy changes in their lives. Colette's health coach practice is called Daily Habit Change.
Welcome, Colette. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you so much for having me here today.
So what is lipedema?
Lipedema is not lymphedema. Most of the time when you go to a doctor or see a nurse, if you tell them, I think I have lipedema, the doctor will correct you and say lymphedema, which is the swelling of an arm or a leg or, this kind of thing. Lipedema has some similarities, but it is a different type of fat that your body creates in between the capillaries and the lymph vessels. And it's very nodular. It could be very like little bits of grain, rice, peas. Some get even bigger. And it's resistant to diet and exercise. And
resistant?
Resistant, yes. Yes. Yes.
Oh, that's a challenge.
Yes. Once it's there, it's nearly impossible to remove. Like currently, really liposuction is the only way to remove it from your body. And it's predominantly on your lower half and it's symmetrical, whereas lymphedema will affect one leg. Lipedema will affect both. And it's proportional down the body.
Lymphedema would be your lymphatic system is out of whack in some way.
Yes.
But lipedema has to do with a type of fat your body is producing, typically in your lower half of the body.
Yes. We think that like a compromised lymphatic system plays into this, It's like this fat cell gets created that the receptors aren't working on it right. So the cell just gets larger and larger and it can't release what's there. And then you get some scarring around that cell and then it can grow into clusters and things like this. So diet and exercise is going to be very beneficial for you, but it's not going to remove that fat from your body per se. It's very superficial just under the skin. So it's right below the skin. And that will also make it look like maybe you've got cellulite, that sort of thing. It's right up in there where the fascia is and it creates these lumps and it's pushing up and through. And that's why things are uneven. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it sounds like a challenge.
Yes.
How did you find out you had it?
Well, I was, it was 2012. We were traveling to Spain for a holiday for a big birthday. And when I got there, it was sort of like I felt like my legs just popped out. I felt like I was wearing like a scuba suit on my legs that came down to my ankle. And there was like this cuff. at my ankle. The feet were okay, but the legs they just popped out. They were kind of hard. And I had never experienced that, or I had never noticed that on me before. And so we went to the shop and got, your water pills, thinking, it's just, from traveling, legs up on the wall, in the pool, doing massage, this sort of thing. And nothing made it better. So when I got back home, I went to my GP, and thank goodness she sent me to the lymph clinic, thinking it was a lymphatic thing. And so got referred to that. I went, and the lady that saw me that day, it was her last day of work. She was retiring. So I may have been like one of her last patients, but she looked at me, she took measurements on my calves and ordered me some knee-high compression socks to wear. And off I went, got the compression from the local pharmacy, then had a 3-month follow-up appointment. And so when I came back, I was seeing somebody else. And this lady, she's, marking up my legs, taking all the measurements all the way up to my hips and everything. And she's asking me questions. And just from what I was telling her, she said, you know what, I think you have lipedema. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. So we wrote it down. I took it home, and Dr. Google opened my eyes. And, I was, 2012, I was 44 at the time. And suddenly everything in life made sense. I had saddlebags back in 4th grade when I was around 9 or 10. That was when I noticed those. I'd been a normal sized kid. And then in 2nd grade, the weight started coming on. Just always heavy. I could lose weight, but never all of it. The saddlebags never went, no matter how thin I got. When I went through boot camp for the Navy, I was so excited because I thought, finally, I'm going to be in shape. I'm going to be fit. I'm going to be, what I wanted to be. And I was, except that I was a 6'8" on top, and I was still a 12, 14 on the bottom because of my saddlebags. They were still there. So I knew at that time, I'm going to need surgery or something for this someday. I didn't know. If that didn't fix it, I didn't know what would.
You have a picture, maybe it was on your website, of you at that time when you were in the military or finishing boot camp or whatever. And you can definitely see the difference. You were slight woman on the top half of your body, but the bottom half is definitely larger. It's very noticeable.
That's a classic sign. And you'll often see people who have this condition where the top half just does not match the bottom half. Like if you see somebody's face and then you see the whole person, it just doesn't make sense. It just does not match. It doesn't tie up. I will say they figure that approximately 11% of women have lipedema. So it's not rare by any stretch. That's basically like 1 in 9, 1 in 10.
Why did it take so long for someone to actually recognize what you had?
I had never questioned it. I know some ladies will Google thick legs or heavy legs, this sort of thing. It never crossed my mind to do anything like that. So many doctors and nurses don't know what it is, so they wouldn't look at you. Well, and plus you're fully clothed when you go into the doctor. Usually they're not going to really see the shape of your body. When you have this, especially, and you don't know it, you spend your life clothing yourself in a way to hide those spots,
Sure. That makes sense.
That's what women do for anything that they see as an imperfection.
Absolutely. Yes, we do.
So it'd be really easy to have it. And not only would other people not know you have it, you wouldn't know because you never brought it up to your doctor because you just figured you had heavy legs.
Exactly. Just they were always thicker.
And if it started when you were 9, then I could see where you would think this is just the way I am.
Absolutely. My mom, my sister, and I were all very much the pear shape, and then my 2 brothers and my dad. One brother's like 2% body fat. He couldn't gain weight if he tried, and he eats eggs and bacon every day for breakfast kind of thing. So we're very different. And the thing with lipedema, it will come down through the family line, father or mother's side, and it doesn't hit every person in the family. It can skip generations. One of my sugar coaches, during one of our sessions, I mentioned it and we started talking about it, and she realized 2 of her sisters have it and 2 of them don't.
Wow.
So it's very hit or miss, no rhyme or reason.
And is it predominantly women who get this?
It is. It can happen for men who have really, really high estrogen. It is possible Like if testosterone's really low, the estrogen's really high, but it's very, very rare.
So there's probably some hormonal component to the whole thing.
It's very, very much tied to the hormone levels because it will come out when your puberty is starting, that sort of thing. When you have a baby, menopause, those sort of hormonal changes in life will amp it up. You know, if it wasn't showing, that will often bring it out. And stress will bring it out also, definitely.
Whatever weakness your body has, stress will bring it out.
Isn't that the truth?
So you were also diagnosed with fibromyalgia. And what is that? And is it related at all to lipedema?
I don't know if it's related, but there's a few conditions that a lot of women with lipedema have, like fibromyalgia is one of them. And it's a pain issue that usually happens in certain spots of your body. When I got diagnosed with it, I'd been to my doc for a while and saying, you know, I'm having these issues. And then finally one day I went in and she kind of pressed me on a couple of specific spots. And she's like, okay, yes, we're going to call this fibromyalgia now. You know, like a nerve pain type thing, I guess would be the way to describe it. It's a lot of times the bottoms of my heels, pain around my ribs, things like that.
Okay. Just certain areas have pain.
Yeah. And for some people, they're the touch aspect is difficult for them. Like showering can be painful. And that's a similarity with lipedema where for some people, they can't have their child sitting on their lap. It's too painful.
Wow.
We bruise very easily. And again, that's probably because there's some issues there where the capillaries are. And often you don't even know where you got that bruise. You know, you notice it like the next day or something, but then you may bump yourself really hard and then that doesn't bruise. So again, it's a real mixed bag.
Is it related to the joints at all?
No, but it can affect your joints, you know, like
Okay.
My struggle is being comfortable sleeping. I have to toss and turn a lot because where the hips are, the saddlebags, that will get sore. And so I'm turning over and over throughout the night.
You mentioned in your intro about that you tried CBD oil and getting rid of pain meds. And you said that helped?
Yes, that has. You know, it's one of these things where if you're consistent with it, it will build up in your body. We all have an endocannabinoid system in our body. That did take me a while to get really proficient at saying that word.
I bet.
Could you say that again?
An endocannabinoid. Yeah.
Okay. And what is that?
It's receptors on all of our cells. So if we're not taking in certain substances, those receptors aren't going to be working as efficiently. So taking the CBD is one way that has helped just enhance my cellular health.
You also said you changed your diet. Can you elaborate on that? Like, how did you used to eat and then how do you eat today?
Oh my gosh, I could eat anything you would put in front of me. The hand was always in the cookie jar. I have admitted this to my sugar coaches and fellow sugar people I'm in class with that one of my favorite things as a kid was just to eat the orange juice concentrate straight out of the can or even dish it up like an ice cream cone, you know, on a cone. The more sweet, the better. The Hershey syrup was always in the fridge. My mom was an excellent baker, so there was always the chocolate chip cookies. You know, just I couldn't just like sit at a table with a plate of cookies and take the one, you know, or I never understood people who could take a bite and then put it down, you know.
I never understood that either. So
you had pretty severe sugar craving.
Yes.
Even at an early age.
Yeah, it was always there.
And so how do you eat today?
I have been free of sugar since the beginning of April 2020. Yeah, that night before our sugar group kicked off our 90-day program, you know, I'd had my last binge and I was in bed and it was about midnight and I was thinking, okay, tomorrow's the day. And I remembered we have Twinkies in the house. So I got up and just ate some more Twinkies, you know, because
Get that last bit of sugar.
Exactly. Yeah. And they didn't even taste good, but it was like, no, I have to have this. I'd had long periods where I'd been off of it because when I found out about the lipedema, you know, you start learning about how to eat to help your body as much as possible. deal with inflammation. And one of those things is lowering your sugar, lowering your carbohydrates, your processed food carbohydrates, your highly palatable foods, things like this. And so I'd gone long stretches without it, but something would stress me out. This would happen. You have one thing and boom, you're just back in it. So
sure.
I couldn't stop.
Do you eat a low carb diet?
I do mostly. Yeah.
And is that different from a keto diet?
Yeah. It definitely is. I mean, true keto is about 80% of your calories are from fat.
Yeah.
So I've probably never been that full on, but lowering the carbs for me has really helped lower my pain. The big turning point for me was July 1st, 2019. I decided I'm going to go back to keto. We're going to get things straightened out. And 2 weeks later, I went for some food sensitivity testing, and I had suspected candida and thrush, and sure enough, that was confirmed. And so my clinician, we set out a diet of very minimal fruits. Like I could have some blueberries, blackberries, strawberries, very few a day, twice a day. No grapes, because those can be little sugar bombs. We cut out mushrooms. I wasn't doing grains anyway, so that was easy. There was no alcohol, no sugar. And, it was about 6 weeks later that I realized I was getting out of bed and my heels didn't hurt, A lot of times with chronic pain, you don't notice it's going away until it's been gone for a while, and all of a sudden you realize, oh, that doesn't hurt. I needed to make those changes in order to heal my gut and stop feeding the candida in there because it feeds on sugar. The other byproduct to that was the weight just fell off. I didn't even have to try. I stuck with, my meats. I gave it, and dairy. We cut out dairy. That was a good game changer for me too. Because the lactose in it, again, that's another sugar. I wasn't hungry, which was amazing. I was having coconut cream instead of dairy, like that in my coffee. The good fats, using real butter. When you use those real fats, you don't need as much of them to be satisfied with them. And like I had said at the beginning, if you put it in front of me, I could eat it. So this was a good turnaround for me to where focusing on the whole foods, getting the processed junk out, my appetite changed. And there are times where I don't want to say I forget to eat, but I kind of have to think about it a lot more now, which I never thought I would be that person. Never.
What about vegetables? You mentioned fruits, but what about vegetables?
Vegetables, like the starchy ones, have a higher sugar content. So those can be sweeter. So I don't have as many of those. From living in Scotland, I have learned the joy of roasted parsnips and carrots. Oh my gosh, so good, but it's so easy to overdo on them. And that's one thing that's important too, is to know that, if you're just eating whole foods, you can still overeat whole foods.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can still have too much of the volume going on there. I love zucchini, courgette, as they're called here, spinach, your greens, things like this. I did learn in this last year that onions are not my friend. I do react to them. They do cause me bloating, gas, and I've tried a few experiments of, I'm going to have a few and then see like what the scale says the next day and how my body responds. And, I can go up a couple of pounds by adding in the onions, and then it takes probably about a week to feel back to normal again. So,
wow, that's an extreme reaction to onion.
Yeah. And it's one of these things where if you're just shoveling in all the food, you never know what it is that's actually bothering your body.
Right.
Once I've cut out the sugar and the refined flours, that sort of thing, I can actually hear more of what's going on inside, what is bothering me, what I'm tolerating, and what I'm actually hungry for.
Sure. Wow. What did it take to get off sugar? I mean, you talked about the Twinkies the night before.
You were obviously in a program.
Yes.
Yeah. What advice would you give your clients on removing sugar? Like to join a 90-day program or?
Yeah, the best thing to do is to do it in community. You've got to be doing it with people who are like-minded, because the world is just going to bombard you with images of crappy food. and the processed junk and everything. And it's, we're of a certain age. We can remember like going to the hardware store and there weren't chocolate bars at the checkout,
Yeah.
It's everywhere. So
the food is everywhere. Right.
I went into the craft store earlier today, and to get to the cash register, I walked past I don't even know how many types of candy to go buy a knitting needle.
Exactly. It's insidious.
Oh, the gas stations have so much food now. Like, everything, every place you go.
Yeah, it's there. It's easy. It's convenient. It's in your face. And so the best thing to do is to just not have it in your house. If it's not in your house, that makes it more difficult to go get it.
Yeah.
So you've talked about having a sugar coach and sugar group. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So I'm a little bit of an online summit junkie. Okay. So, love to watch them. And I had seen one about sugar, and I saw this lady named Florence Christophers and looked up her program. And she and her partner, Amy Anderson, run a 90-day program. They have a year-long program. And, it's a mental thing. It's in your mind. It's your animal brain that really drives you for, any addiction. If you've got one addiction, more than likely that addicted brain is there, and it's going to transfer over to other things. Often when people get off alcohol, what do? They gain weight because they're into the food.
Or stop smoking.
Smoking. Exactly. It's a natural progression. So I signed up for a 90-day program with them starting beginning of April 2020. And to mark my giving up sugar, I had a long spiral perm at the time. And so on April 1st, I shaved my head.
Wow.
Because I wanted that physical thing that I would see every day to remind me this is what you're choosing for your health.
The new you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And now it's just so convenient that I'm not sure I'll ever go back,
Well, it is a very becoming hairstyle.
Thank you.
Yeah, our listeners probably won't be able to see you. So you're going to have to go to the website and take a look at her photo.
Yes. Besides food, what do you consider to be an anti-inflammatory lifestyle?
It's things that you can do like for your self-care. It's also, not just what you put in your body, but what you put on your body. Like I've removed, we don't use any products in the home that have like the sodium lauryl sulfate, the SLS, those sort of things.
Isn't that every shampoo known to?
Almost. Yeah, exactly. It's not in Johnson's baby shampoo, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, I'm 54 and I've got a bottle of that in the shower for just in case. The parabens, things like this. We've switched from plastic containers to glass, being conscious of like our detergents and hand wash, things like this. So, what goes on your skin, your skin's your largest organ. That's going to get absorbed into your body. It's going to affect you. But also like with the self-care, you need to be doing things daily to, get your lymph fluid moving. Your lymph system, it parallels your cardiovascular system, but it doesn't have a pump like your blood vessels do with your heart. Your lymph fluid only moves when you move, and it has the little valves in the lymph vessels that allow the fluid to only go one way.
One-way valves.
It's one way. Yes. So that's why, have you ever felt feels like maybe a kernel of corn in your armpit or in your groin? You get that little hard knot.
Yeah.
That can be a backed up lymph node. Okay.
Oh.
So that's where things aren't flowing so well. And if you don't move, your lymph fluid doesn't move. And your lymph fluid is basically, your lymph system is the sewer for your body. It's removing all the toxins. It's clearing the stuff out that your body doesn't need. So if that's backed up and not working, you're not going to be healthy,
So the way to get your lymph system to keep it moving is to move your body.
Move your body. Exactly. So even one of the first things you can do when you wake up in the morning is do some deep breathing, because about 300 of your lymph nodes are all in your upper chest. And so you want to get that moving as as soon as possible. Fidgeting can be a good thing to do,
Oh, good. I'm good at that.
I know.
Yeah, me too.
Even though the teachers told us to stop. No, that can be a good thing. Like for myself, one of the first things I got to help with the lipedema was my vibration plate. Like those power plates at the gym, you can have them at home and you stand on it and it violently shakes you and it feels really, really good.
It just moves everything around.
It just moves. It gets your circulation moving. It gets the lymph moving. They come in a wide scale of models now. You can get them for under $100. You can get high-end ones. When we travel here within the UK by car, if we're going, we've got 2 holidays coming up this summer, that vibration plate will be going with me, because if I'm away from home for more than a couple of days, I need to have that thing, because it really helps that much. Last year I fell and got a concussion and had to stay off the thing for like 3 months. And it just about did me in. It gets everything moving.
It makes that big of a difference, huh?
It does. It helps me feel lighter. It gets everything moving.
I've never heard of a vibration plate before.
Oh, it's been a game changer for me. And it's, the type of thing where you can do exercises on them. And so, if you got my resistance bands, the dumbbells here, my Pilates ring, that sort of thing. And it just amplifies all of those exercises too. So you're getting more out of them if you're doing them on the vibration plate.
Oh, you do them while you're on the vibration plate. So you lift your weights or whatever while you're standing on the plate.
Yes. Or you can, have your hands on it to do a plank, or you could plank with your hands on the floor and your feet on the plate.
Interesting.
Sounds like it'd be good for balance too.
Yes. I will admit it has helped me greatly with my balance.
That's great. Well, I was thinking about your LinkedIn profile. I was checking that out and I saw that you do an infrared sauna followed by a cold plunge.
Yes.
Now I know this is a popular thing, but why do you do it and where do you take that cold plunge?
Okay. So I had been learning about the infrared sauna a few years back, something I always wanted. So I've got a portable one that fits in the home that gets deeper into the tissue without having to heat you up as much to get in. And there's belief that with the lipedema, if we can loosen up the fascia and break that up, then that can help the fat not to progress and possibly release a bit more. I've seen a couple of people who have done amazing things with working the fascia with these types of therapies. With the cold water, I wanted to try that because of a couple of reasons. I had heard that it's very good for pain. So I thought, give this a try. I've been in our river here in the village, but it's not the most convenient thing to get to. So finally, I'd been doing the cold shower at the end, for a good while, a good year or so. And then finally I found like a little portable tub that sits out in our back garden. Got the cold water from the Scottish tap here that is nice and chilly. I started that end of April, beginning of May. This is a good time of year to start that. So by the time winter rolls around, it won't feel as drastic, but
I keep reading about or listening to people talking about how good for your body cold showers or cold water is. It's supposed to be rejuvenating.
Particularly for women, from what I've read. I have to look into find out where I saw that, but I did recently read about the cold, plunge kind of thing.
Yes.
And when you said infrared, I actually had that done on my ankle when I was going to physical therapy for my Achilles.
Yes.
They did a lot of infrared something on my ankle, but that was all part of the regimen.
Exactly. And that's the way you have to look at this is not just doing one thing. It's how the cumulative effect of doing all of these things together makes such a big difference.
Yeah.
Like with the cold water, there's 2 kind of schools of thought. There's the Wim Hof method. He's a forerunner in the cold water therapy. And, some days when I'm out there, it's all about settling into my little tub and saying, I am the calm in the storm and being peaceful for as long as I can. And, the mental aspect to it and working on your breathing and, working your calmness for stressful situations. Now that I've been practicing that, it's like if I get into a situation where, the nerves are coming up, I know that I can go back to that place. Exactly. And then there's another school of thought about turning white fat back to brown fat. Babies are born with a lot of brown fat because they can't shiver. So that keeps them warm. And then as you get older, you lose the brown fat and it's replaced with the white fat. And so instead of just getting in the tub and staying, you can get in, shiver, stay in for like a minute or two, get out and just stand in the air. Don't dry off or anything. Stay out for about a minute, get back in, shiver, that sort of thing. Stay in for another minute or two and cycle back and forth that way for, a few times to help try and change the fat that's in your body. And that was something I learned about from a man named Andrew Huberman. He has a really fantastic podcast. He's on faculty at Stanford, a neuro professor and ophthalmologist. Some days I do one type, some days I do the other. And again, the shivering goes back to fidgeting, It's another way to burn some extra calories too.
I did not know that it was possible to increase the amount of brown fat you have.
That is what the research is saying can be done.
I didn't know there was brown fat and white fat.
Well, we do on chicken,
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
But yeah, I had never thought about it for people either.
Somewhere along the lines, I had a doctor who gave me a test and told me I had a fair amount of brown fat.
Good.
But I don't know how he determined that.
Yeah. Interesting. So I've always been a cold person, not quite Raynaud's. Ice for my feet. Hubby can attest to that in bed. The cold hands, that sort of thing. And so the idea of getting into cold water, I didn't ever think I would go there either. But now it's hard to do. Every day it is hard to get in. But once you're in, eventually the magic happens and you just enjoy it. And what I've found is that's been very effective for managing pain also. How
long did it take you to sort of acclimate to getting into cold water?
It's a challenge each day, but I just have to, if you're familiar with Mel Robbins, she's got her 5-second rule where you count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch. You just have to get in. You can't think about it too much or you won't do it.
Well, that's, yes.
Exactly. So I like to get up, jump on the vibration plate for 10 minutes, maybe 20, then do the sauna, come back out. I get back on the vibration plate for another 10, and then I'll get in the cold water because you don't want to jump too quickly from one extreme to the other. That has been a really great way to start my day.
Wow. Let's talk about habits for a minute and making changes in our lives. Your coaching practice is called Daily Habit Change, Be Your Authentic Self. What do habits have to do with healthy living or for being your authentic self?
The example that comes to mind is, you could do 1 push-up a day during the month. And at the end of the month, you've got 31 push-ups you've done. Or you could do 31 push-ups all in one go. Which one is better for you? Doing the 1 push-up every day.
Yeah.
You're building that consistency. And like with the food for me, if I choose each day not to have sugar, that's a consistent choice I'm making. And I can build on that and work on, other aspects of my eating. So I've nailed down the sugar and now I can move on to the volume of food I'm eating or compulsive eating or the habits around the eating. We want to change instantly. We're in the instant gratification society now.
Yes.
And we want to go from 0 to 60 immediately, and you can't do that and not make it last. So by switching up one little thing a day, you build and you build. And eventually, if you can change one habit a month, by the end of the year, you've changed 12 things.
That's big.
That's pretty darn good. That's huge. And it's looking at, you have to be ready to change for one thing. But you can't wait for the motivation to hit you because that's not going to come.
It doesn't consistently, at least.
No.
Well, how do you help your clients change or create a habit? Because I think it's harder to change a habit than just start a new one. But
yes,
I don't know. Can you tell us an example of how you help someone do this?
Yes, like two things come to mind. Like as far as eating, it's a whole lot easier to add in good things first, and then they will naturally help push out the things you don't want to be eating. Okay, if you're eating enough of the whole foods, you're not going to have room for the other stuff. Or, one thing I've done with a couple of people is say you want to declutter a room or your desk or that kind of project, set the timer on your phone for 15 minutes or 20 minutes and start working away. And then when that timer goes off, walk away. Just start with a small chunk of time. So often you look at what needs cleaning up or organizing, and it's too much, it's too big, it's too overwhelming.
Yeah.
So if you just did 20-minute, 15-minute chunk a day for, say, Monday through Friday, by the end of that week, you've gotten like an hour and a half of work done, but it hasn't really seemed like work.
Yeah. Well, I think when we get done with this recording, I'm going to do that very thing, because I have a room in my house that every time I walk in, it's like, I don't even know where to start. I think that's how I'm going to start, is 15 minutes at a time.
That's a good idea. So on our podcast and in our blog, we have talked a lot about habit and discipline and motivation and how those things are different. How do we get to the point where things are just the way we do it and we're not white knuckling those changes?
That's the key, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just making the change. If it were only 21 days, wouldn't that be easier to a new habit? But, studies are showing it does take much longer. And so if you set yourself little rewards, if I can maintain this for X amount of time, I'm going to go get my nails done or get a massage. Something that has nothing to do with food. Food is not a reward. You have to understand why it is you want to make this change. Why do you want this new habit? And often you say, well, okay, I've got a wedding to go to in August, so I want to lose some weight. Well, why do you want to lose some weight? Well, I want to look good. Why do you want to look good? Because I'll be around people I haven't seen for a while. Well, why is that important to you? Well, I want to feel good about myself. So why do you want to feel good about yourself? Well, right now, I think I don't look so nice and it keeps me from going out and doing things and I'm restricting myself. And I want to be that person that's out there doing as much as I can. So, that was like 5 levels of why. And that's what you've got to kind of keep asking yourself. Well, why do I want this? It's usually not the first thing that we answer. Part of why I've wanted to change up the nutrition and the lifestyle is both of my parents have had cancer, and my mom was very, very healthy. So it took her a lot longer to die from the cancer than any of us expected. I know that sounds kind of crazy. She was really healthy except for the cancer. And my father, they both ended up with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and then mom had one called angiosarcoma. And I just look at, are there things in their lifestyle that they could have changed earlier on to avoid cancer and these sorts of things? I want to do as much as possible with my health without pills and medication as I can. And there is definitely a time and place for those things. Absolutely. But those things are going to work even better if I am as healthy as I possibly can be.
And so often pills and medications seem to have side effects that, maybe you don't get all the side effects, but you might get 1 or 2. And the next thing you know, you have another problem.
Yes.
I was wondering too about meditation. We've talked a lot about that on this podcast too. How does that help with weight loss or, making changes in our bodies?
I'm so glad you brought this up. One of my most favorite people in the world is this man named John Gabriel, and he has the Gabriel method. And again, I found him on one of my online summits I was watching, and he was supposed to be on United Flight 93 on 9/11. And for some reason, I don't know why, he did not get on the plane that day. He had grown up, big, healthy guy, athletic, majored in biology and business at University of Pennsylvania, and then went to Wall Street and started gaining weight. And he was up over 400 pounds.
All the stress and computer things, no doubt.
Yeah. And so when he did not die that day on that airplane, he knew there was something in life for him to do. And so he went back to when he was a kid, and his father helped him through his migraines by using visualization. Okay. So he went back to doing that. He had been to Dr. Atkins himself. He'd done all the diets, done all the workouts, and he developed a system of visualization that has gotten, well over 200 pounds off and is still off almost 20 years later. So I started a 12-week program of his And each week kind of has a different focus, and you've got a morning visualization, you've got an evening one. And a lot of it was about rewiring your brain, how you're seeing things, how you're seeing yourself, how you're approaching the food. And I truly believe that has changed my appetite and helped change it to what it is now, to where I'm not constantly thinking about food and what's the next meal and I have to have snacks in my bag and what am I going to do on this transatlantic flight. That's not a stressor anymore for me. So that's something I practice, a good couple times a day.
So meditation and visualization has helped you to get healthier.
Absolutely.
And you do that how many times a day?
I'll start the morning with the visualization.
Okay.
I go to bed at night with one on. There's this app called Calm.
Yes, I have that one.
The Daily J. Love the Daily J. And some different other things. That's the beauty of lying in the infrared sauna is I've got the headphones on, doing two things at once. I'm getting my brain rewired and helping the body. That's just one of those things that I do.
Morning and night and whenever you can. Yeah.
I was once in a weight loss program. It was through the Wellness Center at the Cleveland Clinic. It included hypnosis. It was a hypnotherapist who did it. But it was a lot of those same kinds of things, I would guess, is that we would do both things related to food and also self-worth kinds of addressing the things that bug you or about yourself or
yes,
doing some of that work. I'm assuming it sounds like it's sort of a similar type idea.
Exactly. And I think that's what's so important is how you eat has as much a big impact on your health and weight loss as what you eat.
You mean like quickly versus slowly?
Yes. And this is where the vagus nerve is very important.
Okay.
So your vagus nerve, I love it. It's your 10th cranial nerve. It comes out of the back of your head, down behind the ears and goes down. And it is the communication highway between your internal organs and your brain. 20% of the communication is from your brain to your organs. 80% is what's being fed back to your brain. So this is where that gut instinct comes in, or the heartbreak. You feel it.
Or butterflies when you're nervous.
Butterflies in your stomach. That's all very real. And that's why we need to pay attention to these things. It's kind of backwards sounding, but when you stimulate the vagus nerve, that puts you into rest and digest. So you're either in rest and digest or you're in fight or flight. And also now there's freeze and fawn. Okay, so there's
freeze
more
and
to
fawn?
That. Freeze and fawn. Yes, exactly. I definitely was the freeze kid. That was me, and I was so thankful to hear about that a couple of years ago. And now it's like, that's where I fit into that. Have you ever eaten a meal and it just sits there in your stomach? It's hard and heavy. That's because you're in that fight or flight mode. You can eat a certain thing, one day, eat a certain way, and you get on the scale the next morning and you're down a pound. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to eat that exact same thing again. And the next day you do it and you're up a pound. And it's all about taking the time before you eat to relax. This is where pray before you eat. What are you doing? You're taking the time to calm, get present, take that moment before you actually start eating. You don't have to pray. You could just do a self check-in. How am I feeling? This sort of thing. So it's amazing how the slowing down, being mindful of chewing, going slower, putting the fork down in between bites, all of that will affect how well you're taking in what you're eating and how that nutrition is going to be absorbed in your gut.
There's the idea of taking the 3 deep breaths before you eat your meal. It would be the same kind of calming thing.
Or the idea of not eating in front of the television or while you're driving the car.
Standing up in the kitchen, that sort of thing.
Over the sink doesn't count. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we're so into all this multitasking, which now they're saying is not so good for us.
It's definitely not good, right?
No. You rarely do you just sit and eat.
Right. And focus on that.
That's not the norm anymore. You don't just sit and watch a movie anymore on the couch either. You're always on your phone, you're on your tablet, you're doing this and
right.
that.
Well, we've talked a little bit about food and eating and that type of thing, but what about exercise and what role has it had for you in your recovery?
I love to walk. I'm in a beautiful area where there's lots of hills, and we have a national cycle route that goes through our village, hiking, walking, that sort of thing. The longer the walk, the better. I enjoyed cross-country running in junior high, but didn't realize, hey, I should join the cross-country team. Thought just didn't cross my mind because I was a band kid. I didn't think of myself as athletic, but I'm sorry, marching band is serious exercise.
Yes, it is.
It is, especially in August when it's hot.
So do you run in the hills now?
I walk. I've started jogging a little bit again. When I went through boot camp, I had to get ready for that. And so I had my little rebounder mini trampoline. So I would jog on that and to a certain CD. And when I hear that CD, any of the songs of it, it's like, okay, I'm back in that mode. And then I got to where I really enjoyed it. And then once you're out of the Navy and the reserves and everything, and you don't have that physical fitness test twice a year, the motivation is not so strong. I've always enjoyed the walking. I did a 3-day cancer walk that was 20 miles each day. And what was great is we did it in San Francisco, and I saw parts of the city I'd never seen when I lived there. That was awesome. Wow. We have a thing in Scotland called the Kilt Walk, which is a fundraiser. And you can do, I think, like 10K up to a full marathon length, that kind of thing. And people are in their kilts. It's really fun, and it's a good day out. So when I think of a holiday, I think going and doing these sorts of things.
Yeah, fundraisers that are exercise that are fun to participate with others.
Absolutely. And when I started this year, I looked up my physical fitness test, parameters for the Navy for my age group. And so by the end of the year, I want to be at the top outstanding category on that. So that's still a goal. And what I see too is it's no more of the sit-ups, where you had to have your arms crossed. They couldn't leave your underarms. If they came out, you were done. Now it's a forearm plank. I'm good with that.
A forearm plank has replaced the sit-up. That's interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting.
Because those sit-ups, the way you had to do them, God, they
kind of mess up your back.
Yeah.
If we were to do only one thing to help ourselves, what should that be?
Get good sleep.
A good sleep.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Oh man, I'm all about that.
Didn't even have to think about that, because that's when your body heals. So if you're not sleeping well, a lot of the other stuff isn't going to matter. Like John Gabriel will give the example of a guy who came to him, wanted to lose some weight. He told the guy, go do the sleep study, find out, yes, he needed the CPAP machine. And, 4 months later, just by using the machine, he had lost like 40 pounds.
Oh, wow.
I mean, that's a game changer for you. If you can get good sleep, that's where your body's going to heal.
Well, that makes perfect sense, because when you don't sleep, you don't have enough energy, and your body compensates by thinking you're hungry. Like that will provide the energy, but it's the sleep that you need.
And it's that cycle.
At least that's been my experience. If I can't sleep, man,
it sets you up to eat more because you think you need the food. And I will also say, like with the cold water therapy, just getting in the water in general is really beneficial for everybody. But for the lipedema in particular, when you're upright in the water, that is like getting compression on your body. I wear full length compression stockings every day, even if I'm having a jammy day. I put them on. Those also help the lymph fluid move. But being in the water, it's one place where I can float. And people with lipedema often we float better than other people.
Sure, that makes sense.
Oh my gosh, when I got into the pool on that holiday in 2012, I thought, I'm going to swim. This is going to be great, because I used to do it as a kid. And I got in, and I was so much heavier at the time that my bottom was up higher in the air, and I physically couldn't quite swim right. So I will walk and jog in the pool. If we're on a holiday and there's a pool there, that's what I do. I'm in that, because that is so beneficial for you.
I know that you're now a health coach. So what kind of services do you provide to your clients?
We can do like one-on-one programs, like 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 12 weeks, and depending on how long you need. One of the things I've got on my site as an offer is how to thrive at a theme park. It's holiday season right now, and in In 2019, I was home in the States for 4 weeks, and I stayed sugar-free, flour-free, all of that the whole time. My dad is very much a foodie, so there's always the goodies in the house, but I maintained with that. And I went to Disneyland. We were there for 3 days, and I didn't cheat once.
That's got to be hard. You had to bring a lot of snacks that were healthy snacks.
I brought my snacks, did a little research on what's available in the park. You know, you can get bacon wrapped asparagus at Disneyland.
Wow.
Exactly. Yeah. And they have little restaurants that are hidden around, like we had a lovely steak dinner at the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. Inside there's this restaurant. And what was so great is, went in, said, I've got some dietary needs here. And the waitress was like, oh, great. What can we do for you? And like, we've got this gluten-free menu, sugar-free menu. And so it's like, you don't want the potato? Great. We'll get you some broccolini, this sort of thing. And I couldn't believe how accommodating they were. It was really, really excellent. That's a big key to changing your diet is being prepared. We're a society of convenience. So if you can like meal prep one day a week, chop up vegetables, whenever I do cook a meal, I don't cook just one serving. You cook a few, so you've got more meals. Having things on hand that you can grab and go is really, really important.
So when you are health coaching with your clients, it's one-on-one 4 or 6 weeks. Is this online?
Yeah, if Zoom has been, and all of the video means that we have now are very helpful. So that can be with anybody, anywhere in the world. Just making sure you're on the same time. Yeah.
The people who come to you are people who want to lose weight or address a health issue. Like what kind of things are we talking about?
Like changing up, going from getting off the fast foods, getting into more whole foods, how you can transition that. If you say you're not eating junk food and sugar, people think you're on a diet when really you're eating naturally. It's all the other stuff that is the problem. So I don't see myself as dieting. I've cut certain things out. If I could moderate sugar, given what I know about it and what it does for our body, I'm not sure I would even want to moderate it. Yeah, I help people change up their eating, working towards other lifestyle changes. Like if they have a goal that they've got looming and they need help getting towards that, structuring, here's how you're going to build success. Here's how you're going to get to what you want to accomplish.
If our listeners want to find you online, where should they look?
Well, the website is just dailyhabitchange.com. I've got some social media links on there. I've got a page that's all about lipedema on there. So that could be really helpful. On Instagram, Daily Habit Change. That's the easiest way to find.
We'll make sure that we put those links on our show notes as well and on our website. I want to thank you so much for talking with us today, Colette. It's been very eye-opening and I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're most welcome.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
I'm so grateful to be here and thank you both so very much.
It's good talking with you. Take care.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Colette really knows her stuff. She obviously does a lot of research and I love to learn new things. So I was really impressed with her.
Yes, I was really impressed too. And I found myself after we recorded and, going back through my notes and everything, looking things up on Google, checking out things because I was like, I really can't believe that. Like, for instance, 11% of the women have lipedema. Did I say it right?
Yeah, lipedema. Yeah.
Lipedema. And it's something that honestly, I'd never really heard of. I've heard of, we went through all this already, but I was really surprised that 11% is the number. And when you think about it, that's a lot of people.
Yes. And so you know what, when I Googled that, the lipedema, and you can see some photos of people of extreme cases of that. And as soon as I saw them, I recognize, you see people like who have that. And there are some extreme cases and, I'm sure people look at them and think, oh, how could you let yourself get like that without knowing that's a medical condition?
Right. Well, and when it's 11%, obviously lots of people have it. And it's something that I think in a moderate condition, you see tons of people that have it. So it's very interesting that, she said the exercise doesn't help and diet doesn't help, that the only thing you can do, well, it does help in that you can, modify your body composition. And that's really a key to all of this. I don't know. There's just so much. I want to go back and listen to the episode all over again, just because there was so much in there.
Yeah, there really was. And the other thing was, I really struggle with sugar at times. And I'm like one of those people that if I have a sugary treat, then it's suddenly harder to avoid them again.
Oh, yeah.
And, so having one thing of sugar leads to more.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah.
I was impressed that Colette was able to give up sugar. That was very motivating.
Well, she has some really interesting things on her website, too, about sugar and the liver, stuff that I hadn't really considered before. But I'm with you as far as sugar goes. I know, well, for instance, this week, there are 6 birthdays in my extended family.
Uh-oh.
And you know what birthdays mean? Birthday cake and ice cream. And you can avoid a lot of it. But sometimes you just feel like willpower, discipline, the motivation.
Yep.
It's just a lot to overcome. And so I'm trying every trick in the book. And she had a lot of them. I loved her talks about, what was it? Visualization and meditation. We talked about hypnosis, all of those things. It really is a mental game in so many ways, because the actual eating of the sugar thing isn't all that great, but the anticipation of the sugar thing is almost a craving sometimes. And that's interesting to think about, if you can separate the two things.
That was like when she talked about going and getting the Twinkie and eating it.
Yeah.
And that the Twinkie really wasn't all that good, but it was sugar. I can appreciate that sometimes you just like, oh yeah, I'll eat this.
Well, right now I'm working on a blog post for a Becoming Ellie blog about a book that I've been reading, actually listening to, and I have a lot to say about it, but it's about neuroplasticity in your brain and trying to change your habits. And she talks a lot about like sugar or things like that. But the thing that struck me in listening to this, she said that it's the anticipation of the reward, much like, let's say, a gambling addiction. It's the anticipation of winning, not actually winning, that gets your brain all stirred up into that pattern and how to break the pattern and change your habits. And, I feel like that sometimes with food or trying to get myself focused on exercise instead of food. I don't know. I'm getting off track here.
That's well, we did talk about habit, and that is something. There are times when you just can't rely on motivation, because my motivation is not always there. Sometimes I'm really motivated. Sometimes I am gung ho.
Right. Me
and
too.
Other times I would be perfectly happy to sit on my couch.
Right. Oh, yeah. I think I do something. Well, she made a really good point. And I think she's right that you have to find your support group, whether your support group is the Becoming Ellie community or friends that you've met or someone online or, even a coach, like she is a health coach, but finding someone that you can lean on when your motivation and discipline and best intentions are not holding up.
Yeah. I also thought it was interesting when I asked her what was the single most, if you could only do one thing to improve your health, what should it be? And she said sleep, because we hadn't even talked about sleep.
Right.
I'm sure sleep is so important.
I've struggled with sleep for years. I mean, a long time, starting with perimenopause and waking up at 3 a.m. every single morning. I mean, it was just like clockwork. It's definitely, there's hormones that get you to go to sleep, and there's hormones that get you to stay asleep, and then there's hormones that get you to wake up. And so when you're going through changing hormones, and then also you add in all the different habits in your life of exercise or not exercise, eating healthy or not eating healthy, it's just
drinking coffee at 4 p.m. or not.
Exactly. Because you're tired. You keep trying to keep that energy going. Sleep is critical. There's no doubt about it. I know that Fitbit app, I talk about that all the time, but that's the very first thing that I do when I'm waking up is see how much deep sleep I got, how much REM I got, and did I make it to bed on time? Because, it's all those.
For those of you who have a Fitbit, I just saw Fitbit has a new sleep profile thing.
Oh, really?
It takes your sleep data and gives you sort of more of an analysis of it. So it told me I was a giraffe. That meant.
And what does that mean? Other than
I don't sleep enough, basically.
Giraffes don't sleep much. Well,
yeah. At any rate, it was kind of interesting.
Well, I know I wake up many, many times in the middle of the night for 4 minutes or 3 minutes or sometimes 20 minutes. But staying asleep is my nemesis. So, And we do have other sleep episodes that we have done. There was one, I think it was the beginning. It was in November. I'll link to it for those of you that are interested in sleep. I'll link to it too in the show notes.
Okay, that'd be great because there's a lot we could do to improve our sleep.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just feels like such a challenge.
Elusive.
Yeah.
Very elusive.
But then again, when you're like looking at those statistics of your deep sleep, well, 78% of people have more deep sleep than I do, or whatever. Yeah. That sort of like makes it feel like sometimes like, oh, I'm competing.
Well, I don't think of it as competing as much as restoring my body, because, when you sleep, that's when your spinal fluid, goes into your brain. And is that the right words? That's probably not accurate. But, your brain gets cleansed, and that's when your body restores. And that's when you actually build muscle after you've had a hard workout, whether you're running or weightlifting or whatever. But during your sleep is the best restoration time. And if you don't properly restore, particularly if you're over 50, you really feel it the next day.
Yeah, that's true.
I'd love to hear what our listeners think about today's episode. Let us know how you've used food and exercise and whatever else to overcome your health challenges.
And if you've tried that cold water thing, let us know about that too, because I'm really curious about it.
Yeah.
I'm not putting a cold water tub in my backyard, but maybe a cold shower now and again.
Well, I did try the bathtub one time. Well, several times, especially when we were running those half marathons. I would fill the tub with cold water and then add the ice cube trays.
Right.
And it did help. You listeners, you can leave a message at our website, becomingellie.com, or any of our social media sites. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube, and LinkedIn.
Wow.
I know.
If you go to our website, be sure to sign up for our newsletter. And that way you'll know what's going on in our world. Also, please join our Becoming Ellie private Facebook group.
Yes, we'd love to have you join us. Oh, and if you enjoyed the podcast, please tell a friend. We would so appreciate that. And so would your friend.
Yes. So please do that. They say that word of mouth is how most people find podcasts. So it would really help us. And you're right. Help your friend.
That's right. So it's really great talking with you today, Jill, and see you on the next episode of the Fit Strong Women Over 50.
I'm looking forward to it.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.